left was those domestic murders, generally women being killed by men, languishing with that 15-year tariff as a starting point, that needed to be made up to 25 years, because it was diminishing the lives of those women that were taken. It was diminishing the lives of our daughters, our sisters, our mothers taken in that way. And quite frankly, it was insulting right from the beginning. Before the sentencing happened with regard to my own daughter, I was challenging why that was a 15-year starting point.
This interview is going to contain discussions of domestic abuse and also violence against women. It's such an important topic for us to talk about because a sentencing loophole for domestic murders in England looks like it may finally close. Under current guidelines, the minimum sentence starting point is 25 years if a killer brings a weapon to a crime scene. But because most domestic murders occur in the home using items already present at the scene, killers often receive a much lower 15-year starting point. With domestic abuse accounting for more than a fifth of all murders, the Ministry of Justice has announced plans to eliminate this 10-year gap, ensuring that killers do face tough sentences. The legal shift follows a 7-year campaign by the advocacy group Killed Women, and joining us now is one of its founding members, Julia Devey, whose daughter Poppy Devey Waterhouse was murdered by her ex-boyfriend in 2018. Thank you very much indeed for taking the time to talk to us today, Julia. I know it's been such a long campaign for you after a period of such horrendous grief and during a lifetime of trying to come to grips with your loss. And I wonder whether you can just explain to us what some of that journey has been like for you.
Yes, just to correct you, sorry, my name's Julie, not Julia.
I'm so sorry, Julie, my bad.
It's been, as you said at the start, seven years. Started with Carol Gord in 2019. And then we began Killed Women a few years after that. And then we found ourselves sitting in the public gallery at the House of Commons yesterday hearing David Lammy's announcement. But it was after 7 years, 7 Lord Chancellors, endless meetings, endless pushing, endless phone calls, emails. And it's tough. It's really, really hard to keep going. There are moments when you just think, I can't do it anymore. And then something happens, or you hear something, you get a message, and you think no, and the next day you're up and running again, and you're going on.
I tried to explain in brief in the queue before your interview exactly what was happening here, but I know that you'll be able to explain it an awful lot better. Why has the previous law remained in its form for quite so long? I mean, it does seem like a really appalling disparity in sentencing.
Yes, so what happened in 2008, there was an uplift to 25 years for knife crime in an attempt to tackle knife crime. So knives taken to the scene of the crime, that was a 25-year starting point. But what happened then was they left the domestic killings that usually take place in the home languishing with that 15-year starting point, 10 years still behind. And yet, you know, and as horrific as it is, we read so many of these, and the overkill, the ferocious killings that happen generally as domestic homicides, it's multiple stabbings. You know, my daughter had 47 knife wounds, 100 injuries altogether, whereas you compare that to many knife crimes that maybe 1 or 2 stabs, and it's awful. And I'm not suggesting at all that it's about counting that, because it's a life still taken, and I agree with that 25 years. But what it left was those domestic murders, generally women being killed by men, languishing with that 15-year tariff as a starting point, that needed to be made up to 25 years, because it was diminishing the lives of those women that were taken. It was diminishing the lives of our daughters, our sisters, our mothers taken in that way. And quite frankly, it was insulting right from the beginning. Before the sentencing happened with regard to my own daughter, I was challenging why that was a 15-year starting point.
And why was this difference in place? This is about where a weapon was and where an actual murder took place.
Yes, the thinking primarily was about if you're taking a weapon to the scene, it's a premeditated murder. If a weapon is used at the scene, it may not be premeditated, and therefore it was deemed that the murderer would be, I don't know, somehow less dangerous. I mean, it's ludicrous, because then, as again, you then look at what they actually do to these women, and they are very, very dangerous indeed. But that was what it was based on: premeditation and trying to stop knife crime.
Right. I mean, that just seems absolutely absurd, insultingly absurd, as you have said. I know that actually David Lammy played his part well in this. When you presented your case to him, he really did listen.
He did, yes. We went in with postcards. We took a postcard of my daughter's sentencing, which was in April 2019, where her murder got 16 years, 2 months. And then we presented him with pictures of women, the ferocity of their killings, and the date of the sentencing. And their sentencing had happened this year, between January and May this year. And with our campaigning, we've managed to get 4 aggravating factors. And yet, still with these aggravating factors added at the beginning of this year, there was no difference in the sentencing. We were going, well, what's going on? This isn't, we've campaigned, we were pleased we got the aggravating factors, but they're not being added. What's happening? How do you get that information out? What can you do? What power have you got to get those aggravating factors being used better? Because we thought at that point he wasn't going to do the 25-year uplift. So when he looked at them and he really studied them, and he was visibly appalled by no change. One murderer actually went down to 14 years. So he was visibly moved by this, and spoke that, he had a daughter, and then he just thought, and then he said, right, this isn't working, I'm going to do it.
Well, I mean, good for him for taking action immediately, but I can't be the only person, Julie, thinking, why has it been left to you as grieving parents to effect a change that it would seem quite obvious the legal profession would have been able to see too?
Yes, I mean, as you say, we've been saying that all the time. Right when we started, we would say about this, and literally everybody, every politician, every reporter, news reporter, all said we hadn't noticed this. We hadn't noticed that was what was happening with these women that were being killed in the home, these domestic homicides. So we just carried on. We just looked at each other. Well, this is bonkers, as you say. We are just two, we're two bereaved mothers, and that we had to keep carrying on. Each time we met somebody, they couldn't believe it. And like you say, this doesn't make sense. Something's got to change. And then there was the Clare Wade review, and there was the public consultation. The Tory government agreed to move it up in their manifesto, but then there was a general election, and then the Labour Party. So we've had this sort of carousel of people changing and people nodding and giving us sympathy. And what we needed was somebody to step up and, yes, nod, but then do something about it. And David Lammy has actually stepped up to do something about it.
Well, good. What would you like judges, policymakers, and actually everybody listening, Julie, to remember about your daughter and about the women whose deaths have led to this change?
Well, there is no typecast of women that this affects. There's no age different, they go from teenagers, up to the very elderly. There's no class, there's no rhyme or reason for a lot of them. My daughter was in a relationship for 3.5 years. We knew her boyfriend. There was nothing unusual about him. There was nothing that we could see that would have highlighted anything like this happening at all. We have no idea. So it's not always, you hear people say, oh, well, no smoke without fire. Maybe there was something going on. It's total rubbish. It's victim blaming. And at least this 25-year uplift will get rid of that. It is intimate partner homicides that he has lifted it to 25 years. So there is still work to do with hidden homicides, suicide, so-called honour-based abuse, but I know that is being looked at, and hopefully in the totality of a crime, the judge will still raise that up to the 25 years.
And do you find, Julie, that throughout this process, you have been able to tell people about Poppy? How much is her life remembered as you go on this horrific journey yourself?
It is hard to separate, just thinking of Poppy and then extrapolating it from what happens at the end. That is still very difficult. But I'm in touch with a lot of her friends, university friends where she grew up, her sports club friend, all sorts of people, and they all have odd little stories to say, and I write them all down, and they're old memories, but they start to become my new memories as people give me these stories. And Poppy is very much sort of still alive in my head. I talk to her. I never refer to her in the past, sort of thing. She is my daughter, and she will continue to be my daughter. So, in that sense, we have a lot of memories. A lot of people have a lot of memories, and they do very kindly share those with me. They make me cry, but they make me feel it's nice to hear them too.
Well, I mean, all our listeners will share with me in commending you for being able to do that, Julie. I wonder whether I can ask you a final question about the very term domestic when it's being used about acts of murder and violence. I mean, it's a slightly kind of benign, possibly diminishing term. Do you think that actually we need to find a better way of describing what is violence, abuse and murder?
Yeah, absolutely. The word domestic, it's a sort of calming word, isn't it? You have a domestic cat, something's domestic, it's homely, it's calm, it's comforting. This is far from that. This is not that. And as I said earlier, the law that's being changed is intimate partners. So it's people that you've had a relationship with or have had a relationship with. It doesn't cover familial murders, which domestic homicide does. Domestic homicide covers family relationships, murders within family relationships, as well as intimate partner relationships. The 25 years at the moment is just for the intimate partner relationships. But quite often we've looked with our data when there is murders of, say, sons murdering their mothers. It is quite often a hospital order. There are very often mental health issues linked to that. Not always, but very often mental health issues as well. So again, it's looking at that totality of the crime and the issues around it for the judges to respond to. But yes, I think you'd have everyone say, get rid of that phrase, domestic murder. It's just ridiculous. Yeah. It's horrible.
Thank you so much for telling us about your cause, for telling us about Poppy. Apologies again. It is Julie Devey, and we really appreciate your time this afternoon.
Thank you.